Good afternoon, Muskies. I'm Umi Savani.
And I'm Jack Vandertol, and this is Xavier News.
From the Xavier University Television Studio, this is Xavier News.
7 teens were charged with connection to a shooting in Covington earlier this week. 19-year-old Deshaun Peterson was shot in the chest Sunday morning. He was pronounced dead later that day at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. Police said that, quote, the drive-by shooting was the result of a simmering feud that led the group to seek revenge, end quote. The first of the 7 teens is scheduled to appear in court early Thursday morning.
And now, nearly 10 months after their son died, the parents of Kendrick Johnson are finally getting what they've been searching for: another investigation into the teen's mysterious death in the gym of Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia. Now, Michael Moore, the U.S. Attorney for the Middle Districts of Georgia, said Thursday that federal authorities will investigate the circumstances behind the death of Johnson, whose bloody body was found inside a rolled-up gym mat on January 11th. Now, Johnson's family suspects that the 17-year-old was murdered and that someone has tried to cover up evidence in the case. Now, while warning his jurisdiction is limited as a federal prosecutor, Moore said that after his lengthy review of evidence collected by authorities and the family's own investigator, that sufficient basis does exist to warrant a formal review of the facts.
Have you ever thought what it would be like living like Gandhi? Well, now you can for a day. Average tourists pay the equivalent of $16 a night for a chance to pray, meditate, and live the lifestyle of Gandhi for a day. Guests wear traditional kari while practicing the daily routine of waking at 5 a.m. and undertaking domestic chores. During their stay at his most famous ashram, the guests must abide by Gandhi's 11 vows, which include nonviolence, self-restraint, and chastity. The program started October 2nd of this year on the 144th anniversary of Gandhi's birth.
And now, breaking news from Los Angeles International Airport. Earlier this morning, a gunman armed with a high-powered rifle opened fire in one of the terminals. The gunman, now in custody, wounded at least 3 people before authorities stopped the shooter. All flights in LAX were grounded at the time, and terminals 2 and 3 were evacuated.
With Cincinnati City Council elections November 5th, here's a word from candidate Wendell Young.
I know Cincinnati, and I think I know it very well. I grew up here. I'm a Cincinnati native. And so I learned to appreciate the parks and the museums and the zoo and the river and all the things that make Cincinnati so very special. The reason I want to be a member of Cincinnati City Council is simply that it's just an outgrowth and a natural progression from what I've always done. To look for a way to give back, to look for a way to improve the lives of the people who live here, to find a way to make this city, when I leave it, better than what it was when I found it.
Now, if you dressed up for Halloween this year, it probably involved a poncho. There's been a fair amount of rain that has rolled through the Cincinnati area, but there has been a wicked weather across the country as well, in the midst of candy, costumes, and trick-or-treating. In fact, there's been some of the worst flooding in the history of Central Texas just in the past 3 days. More of a foot of rain fell on the night of October 30th in Austin, Texas area, with over 500 homes reported to be flooded. Emergency crews were reported to have gone into flooded neighborhoods in boats to rescue families and their pets on the roofs of their own homes. Now, this has in fact been reported by the National Weather Service to be the wettest Halloween in 2 decades due to a huge cold front moving through East Austin to New Orleans, Nashville to Cleveland, until finally hitting its way up the northeast coast this weekend.
Former spy and National Security Agency worker Edward Snowden has been hired for a job in Russia. The country has granted him asylum after escaping the United States in June earlier this year. Snowden has been linked to the WikiLeaks documents that shared thousands of government secrets. His new employer will be a website, the name of which has not yet been released. This is Snowden's first job since fleeing the United States in June. He has been living off donations since that time.
Federal authorities have found a sophisticated drug trafficking tunnel linking Tijuana to San Diego this past week. In this intricate contraband highway, U.S. authorities found 8 tons of marijuana and hundreds of pounds of cocaine. The tunnel is now under the federal authorities.
After a 95-year drought, the Boston Red Sox won the World Series at Fenway Park Wednesday night over the St. Louis Cardinals. David Ortiz was honored with the title of MVP. The city is beaming with Boston's strong pride, especially in the light of the harrowing scene from the marathon bombing just last April. The Commissioner's Trophy will undoubtedly bring unity in Boston, and this Saturday's Team Victory Parade will bring morale to its streets.
And in entertainment news, a string of new releases will hit theaters this weekend, including the highly anticipated Ender's Game. Based on the best-selling novel by author Orson Scott Card, the film depicts a boy prodigy chosen to save the human race from an alien attack. The film stars Harrison Ford, Sir Ben Kingsley, Viola Davis, Abigail Breslin, and Asa Butterfield as Ender. Also premiering this weekend is Las Vegas, featuring film veterans Michael Douglas, Morgan Freeman, Robert De Niro, and Kevin Kline as four lifelong friends attempting to take back their youth when they hit up Vegas for a friend's bachelor party. And if you're in the mood for more animated film, here Owen Wilson and Amy Poehler voice turkeys in DreamWorks' Freebirds as they travel back in time to rewrite the course of holiday traditional values where they are not turkeys and where turkeys are not on the menu.
Well, that's all from this desk. We'll be right back with the Xavier Sports Report.
Take care.
Guess I'll just check it because there's nothing else rolling. 1, 2, check. I am checking the microphone. Are we good? Hello Muskies, I'm Connor Muldoon with the Xavier Sports Report. Now reported from the school's athletic website, goxavier.com, Xavier University opens the 2013-2014 men's basketball season on Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. at Cintas Center with an exhibition game against Quincy University. Saturday's game is Xavier's lone public exhibition game. Tickets for all remaining seats for the exhibition game cost $20. Fans can purchase tickets through goxavier.com or contact the Xavier Athletic Ticket Office. Xavier University, 17-14 last season, returns with 6 scholarship letter winners from last season and a talented group of 5 scholarship newcomers to take Xavier into its first year as a Big East member. Fifth-year head coach Chris Mack is 10 wins shy of becoming just the 4th coach in Xavier history to reach 100 wins. Mack will go for his 91st win in the regular season opener next Friday. The Xavier men's basketball team enters a new era in the 2013-2014 season as it begins play in the Big East Conference after 18 very successful seasons as a member of the Atlantic 10 Conference. XU opens the Big East portion of the schedule on December 31st at noon against St. John's in a game that will be nationally televised on Fox Sports 1. Following a 4-match road trip, Xavier Volleyball returns home to Cintas Center for a pair of matches against Big East foes DePaul and Marquette. Tonight's match with DePaul begins at 7 p.m. while Saturday's match follows the men's basketball exhibition game and is slated for a 7 p.m. start as well. The Musketeers sit in second place in the conference with a 15-8 overall record and 6-2 mark in the league. The men's and women's soccer teams are both on the road this weekend. The guys are in Philadelphia taking on Villanova, while the girls are up against Creighton in Omaha, Nebraska. And finally, the Xavier men's and women's cross-country teams will be riding north to Kenosha, Wisconsin this weekend to compete in their first Big East championship. The Musketeers will try to make their mark in the conference as they join the long-standing tradition. Great cross-country teams fielded by the Big East Conference. Both teams are expected to hold their own against national powerhouses in the cross-country world, including Providence, Butler, and Villanova. The Big East Championship race is this Saturday, also in Kenosha, Wisconsin, at the Wayne E. Dannell National Cross Country Course. The men's 8K race will begin at 12 Eastern Time, and the women's 6K race at 12:50 Eastern Time. Thank you all for joining us for another edition of the Xavier Sports Report. I'm Connor Muldoon, and on behalf of everyone here in the studio, have a great weekend. Take care.